And right now, we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostick alongside Katie Greifeld taking you through to that closing bell. It's a global simulcast. Carol Massar joins us in the radio booth. Lisa Mateo in today for Tim Stenovic. Welcome to our audiences across all of our Bloomberg platforms, television and radio, our partnership with YouTube. A big turnaround here on this Thursday for all of the major U.S. equity markets, Carol.
Yeah, look at it. We're hovering near our highs of the session. Another little uptick in the last few minutes of trading. But there is, predominantly it's a tech trade. It's an AI-related trade. It's not necessarily your usual suspects. And then once again, you've got semiconductors. Investors just in love with them, up more than 3% in today's session.
Yeah, we're looking at the markets.
What?
I see.
What did
It's
you
a love affair.
It's a love affair.
What's not to love
It's
about
love
chips? I love kinds of chips. Oh.
And all the love going on, despite all the geopolitical news we've been covering, too. I mean, we look at the Dow up about 0.2%. So, yeah, we're seeing green across the screen. Oil actually down about 2.5%.
Yeah, and you can see that love also extending to the small caps. The Russell 2000 higher by about 1.3%. It probably helps that you do see a little bit of relief when it comes to the bond market. Yields down today, but I mean, you think about where we are in terms of the outright levels of yields near the highs of the year, but not making too much of a dent in the stock market today.
Hey, Lisa, have you ever been to Aritzia?
Aritzia, that's my favorite store. Hello.
Okay.
Is it really?
I did not know that.
I go there with my daughter all the time.
Well, guess what? They're going to report earnings after the bell. That's our little straggler here in the earnings season. As we get closer to these closing bells, we are going to see green across the screen for all of the major U.S. indices here on this Thursday afternoon. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, that's basically your laggard on the day. It's only up a mere 130 points, or about 0.25% on the day. The S&P 500 adds roughly 60 points, or 0.8%. The NASDAQ Composite up 1.3%. The NASDAQ 100 up 1.6%. S&P Midcaps up 1.2%. Dow Transports up an even 2%. And the Russell 2000, Carol Massar, up 36 points, or 1.2%.
All right, good stuff, Romaine. Let's go back to the S&P 500. More than 300 names. Katie, higher in the Thursday trade. 202 to the downside, none unchanged.
Well, let's take a look at the sector level as well. More gainers than losers. 7 sectors finishing in the green. Information technology, that is the bright green slice on the circle in front of you, higher by about 1.7%. Consumer discretionary, financials also having a pretty good Thursday. In terms of what didn't perform, consumer staples down about 1.8%. Interesting results from Pepsi earlier in the day. Energy also off by about 1.6%, Carol.
All right, so a lot of green on the screen in terms of gainers here. Let's go to the number one gainer in the S&P 500 and NASDAQ 100. We're talking about Lumentum Holdings, ticker is LITE. That stock up 11% in today's session. It's an optical networking stock. It's more than doubled this year, up about 118% year to date. Rallying again, I should point out 12% of the float is short. But it plays into that AI trade that was definitely in full force today. And I kind of feel like it plays into the Meta news, which I want to go over to because that stock was higher in today's session as well. You're building AI data centers, and increasingly you've seen a shift from copper to optical networking, photonics, if you will, or the interconnects within the AI data center. So Meta talking about the possibility of it increasingly leaning into data centers. And so I want to go over to that. So you just saw, again, the AI trade. Anybody connected, any of the components that go into data centers definitely outperforming. Meta was up almost 5% in today's session. It is down on the year. Kurt Wagner of Bloomberg sitting down with Mark Zuckerberg, and Meta saying it needs all the computing power it can get. That's according to the CEO. He's also considering renting out some of Meta's AI infrastructure to outsiders. It's also developing plans for its own cloud business. And so that could include selling access to various AI models hosted on Meta's existing AI infrastructure, or also selling access to raw computing capacity. So there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. Meta also unveiled a version of its AI model, Muse Spark 1.1. There's just a lot there. Great reporting by Kurt, but you did see Meta certainly outperforming. And then I got to mention, semiconductors rallying again today. Micron, in particular, that one was outperforming, up 4.5%. Company planning to increase its spending on new plants in the U.S. by $50 billion to $250 billion. to help meet demand for its memory chips. So that's a look at some of the gainers. And you've got some earnings, Romaine.
Yeah, just real quickly, let's take a look at Aritzia. This is, of course, the Canadian apparel company out with earnings. EPS just beat at about 96 Canadian cents a share. The street was looking for 85 cents. Revenue a beat at $951 million versus estimates of 923. Margin expansion in the most recent quarter. And the company says that for the full year, it is expecting net revenue in a range of 4.6 billion Canadian dollars to 4.75 billion. The low end of that range is basically right on the nose of the average of analysts.
And in
estimates.
U.S. dollars, Romaine, that is what?
Well, about the same.
I'm being very Romaine
Carol
here.
Massar.
I'm being very Romaine.
You're not allowed
here.
to do that. Did you notice my lapel pin today, Carol Massar?
I know. That's very nice. Where'd you get
beautiful.
it?
You gave it to me.
I know.
You guys.
You do something nice for me every now and then.
I do every once in a while.
Every now and
If I do it often, you're not going to like it as much. You know?
Sure thing.
Just going to say, all right, Lisa, take it away.
All right, on that Aritzia news, because I'm a big fan of them, let's go to some of the decliners. So we'll start with PepsiCo right now. So it was down about 3%. Consumers, basically, they pulled back in the second quarter. Gas prices rose. So that was kind of taking away from their spending. But it's not just PepsiCo, right? They're the maker of Doritos. They're the maker of Lay's. They're the maker of Gatorade on top of it. So they did see a 2% decline. That was in revenue, North American food business, some flat volume on top of it. The salty snacks. So they did see some signs of an additional initial rebound earlier this year, but the problem was it just wasn't enough. So even though they cut the prices earlier this year by as much as 15% in some brands, its CEO put it right out there and just said the consumer is worse than what we had anticipated, and it's driven mainly by gas prices. So that's it in a nutshell. I want to take you over to AstraZeneca right now. Those shares lower as well. It's that and also Ionis Pharma. So they basically, their gene silencer drug, it failed to help prevent heart problems in some patients. So AstraZeneca ADRs, they're down about 5%. We look at Ionis, they're down about 23% on top of that. So basically what the company is saying, they didn't reduce cardiovascular events or deaths from heart problems in a late stage trial. So that was the issue. A successful trial, what that would have done, well, it would have led to billions of dollars in more sales. That's what Jefferies analysts were saying. Astra had this ambition of more than $5 billion in sales of the drug. So we'll see what happens next. I want to end off with Costco. Tom Keene would be in his glory.
Oh my God, you love that store.
He does. Rising gas prices lifts the same store sales, but it was lower than March and April. So that's the issue there. So that's why their shares were down as much as 4%. And that's the issue. So June comparable sales missed Wall Street expectations. The stock may have also been feeling some pressure from Pepsi's. We just talked about that. Their numbers a little bit earlier. But management there, they warned about the consumer. So we see it moving along.
A quick check on yields after a couple of days where we saw them rise, falling across the curve here on this day, down about 5 basis points on the 2-year yield. On your 30-year yield, the longer end of the curve, we're only down about 2. So the volatility we see in the equity market, we continue to see that as well, at least from a day-to-day basis in the Treasury space.
All right, let's go to some stories on our radar. The number of young Americans living with their parents is at a record high. Here's a number for you guys. Nearly a fifth of 25 to 34-year-olds live with their parents or grandparents. That is a record high per a recent analysis of census data by John Burns Research and Consulting. We know it's tough out there. We've done the stories, like graduates coming out, younger folks having a hard time finding jobs.
Well, I have a 24-year-old, so I know it's tough for him.
Living at home?
Living at home, and I think he's going to be at home for a while, depending on how things are going on. Mama's okay with it, but that's all right.
Yeah, I mean, you think about all the different forces in the housing market, structural supply issues there, and then you have mortgage rates pretty high, and it seems like they're not coming down anytime soon. And at the same time, because of that shortage, I mean, prices are super high as well. It's rough out there.
Yeah, and we talk about some of these demographic shifts that are going on out there. And another one, and it actually brings us to another story that we were keeping an eye on the TV side, and that involved CoverGirl. And the idea that, a few years ago, it seemed like everybody was going after the younger consumer, the Gen Z customers, if you will. But CoverGirl has actually had a nice little rebound by actually going after middle-aged women, saying that basically, women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s just offered a better value proposition, but also a way for them to differentiate yourself. If, everybody's running in one direction, sometimes it pays to maybe veer off into you're not in your head there, Carol.
Are you looking at me?
Just speak your
Are you
language.
looking at me? Are you looking at me?
I mean,
Give me that back. Give me
I
that
do
lapel.
see it, though. I do see it. Like
Yeah.
on my feed is just a lot of about middle-aged kind of makeup, and that's kind of the hot thing.
And you also
They also have
know
money.
a lot more about those consumers. I mean, you think about brands really trying to capture the attention of Gen Z, of Gen Alpha, and then I don't even know what comes after that. I mean, you have a lot more data on what,
It's beta.
Gen X.
Beta, Katie.
Beta? Ooh, that's a terrible name.
Zoomers.
Anyway, there's a lot more that is known about Gen X, so it makes sense.
But in all seriousness, too, and we've been talking a lot here on this network about what's been going on in the retail space and some of the rebounds we've seen in companies like Levi and Abercrombie, et cetera, Gap, and the different strategies they're taking in terms of, what demographic, where they see the most hope and the most long-term value. And there is some variance. It's not all just everyone going after the younger consumer.
Yeah, I think especially in the cosmetic space, it is super crowded and super competitive, and there's new entrants all the time. All right, good stuff. Looking good. All right, don't look at me like that, Romaine. I'm just telling you.